Welcome to Building from Scratch with Yewande Odumosu, where we speak with amazing people about how they navigated the early days of building something meaningful from ground up. Hi everyone, thank you. Um, I say every episode that I'm always nervous when I do a new one, and nobody believes me. But like for real, I'm always nervous, and then I think when I start, I just like relax. But officially starting now. Welcome to Building from Scratch with Yewande, and today we have Hamid as our guest. Hamid is a friend of mine. I've known him for a couple of years, and I was delighted and excited to have him say yes. He doesn't really do a lot of public speaking, so it's been a lot of prayers and convincing to have him here. But I followed his journey. I'm a big fan of Hinges. We've done a collaboration together. Hopefully, we'll do another one in future. And I'm just like a big fan of the brand, and I thought it would be great to have him share his story today. I'm going to introduce him because I think if I were to introduce him, I'll introduce him as founder, entrepreneur, designer. But I think I rarely do this. But I mean, if you were to introduce yourself to someone that's never heard of you before or Hinges, how would you describe yourself?
You mean? I mean, first is first. Like you mentioned, I'm also a bit anxious because I don't like talking a lot in public. Um, yeah, that's fun. So I hope everybody I mean, forgive me for the way I flow. I hope you don't mind the texture of my voice because I'm a graphic designer. To your question, I was at a meetup recently, and you know that name tag that you have to put on your chest. I got one of those name tags, and I wrote graphic designer, and a couple of friends are sort of like, dude, you are more than a graphic designer. You do all of this, and this and that. Why are you putting graphic designer? But deep down in my heart, that is what I am. I'm a designer. That's just it. I am fascinated by how things are made, shape, form, how things work generally. So the sum of it is just I'm a designer, but the big part of it is being a graphic designer. That's how I introduce myself all of the times.
All right, cool. I like the humility. Yeah, no, it's fine, man. I like I like to see like people from the view that they see themselves. So it makes a lot of sense that you do that. I mean, you're a designer that does many things, so that's fine. I
I
think
don't
first,
want to I
yeah,
don't want to
you know what?
lose I don't want to lose that part of being a graphic designer. I mean,
And
these
that's
days
fine.
distance and that. So I keep emphasizing I'm a graphic designer. So every other thing
Yeah.
is second.
Yes, and I mean, like, what is true to you is always true to you, and obviously, maybe that's your north star. I think first question, just so that we get into it, is before Hinges, and most people, I don't know when you started Hinges, but I don't want to jump into when you started Hinges. I'm like, okay, before Hinges, what was life like? Where did you grow up? What school did you attend? Did you finish? Did you drop out? What did you study?
Oh, okay. Um, I grew up in Lagos, specifically around Lasu Ojo area. That's where I grew up. I finished from Ladoke University of Technology. I studied agronomy in school. Wow, nothing even related to all these things I'm doing today. But the interesting thing is, um, right from a very young age, like I knew I wanted to have something to do with computers. I think that was around primary two or primary three. But before then, I'd always thought I was going to be a banker. Both my parents were bankers, and I always had, this, growing up, what do you want to be in future? I want to be a doctor, I want to be a banker, I want to be a lawyer. So mine was a banker. I felt bankers, they had money. But the computer thing, it was sometime in primary school. We didn't have like computers in school then, but there was a time that they brought someone I can still remember, and that person brought a computer to the school. You know how they will tell all of us to line up, and you start you start pressing or looking at something on the computer. You don't have access to like actually do what you want to do. And then I remember probably pressing the keyboard. We were playing a game. It was fascinating that there was feedback. Like if you press an arrow key, like something goes forward or something jumps. I remember that since that period, I always wanted to have something to do with computers, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Fast forward to the whole after secondary school jump and all of that. I put in for computer science. First jump, I think this is the result. Second jump, I didn't make it. At the end of the day, I sure got into school to study agronomy. It didn't have anything to do with computers. But before then, after secondary school, my dad had enrolled me in one of these computer schools where you go and learn the desktop publishing, uh systems and network engineering, all those things. So that was where I actually started properly. I started with systems and network engineering. It was that time in computer school that I met a friend. He was doing desktop publishing at that time. His name is Sam. So Sam would often come to me to ask questions about colors. I had insights about how to like use colors and fonts. Looking back at what I did then, I shared some of those on my WhatsApp recently. It was nonsense I was designing at that time, but you know, I knew that I really liked design kind of, but I didn't know what it was at that time. What I was studying in the computer school then was systems and network engineering. So I was repairing computers, doing installations, setting up network, LAN and all those things. So getting into design, speaking without my friend, at some point I got into Corel Draw. It was while playing around in Corel Draw, I landed on, designing a website, So I did that website then. And I felt really, really happy. It was nonsense looking back right now. And I showed it to a friend. I was like, this is not great. I have someone that can actually teach you how to build websites. And then I met someone else, Usman, and then Usman took me in as a mentee. That was when I started learning HTML and CSS. So I have a past where I was a dev, like proper dev, before all these new tech, breakout right now. So Usman started teaching me HTML and CSS then, writing codes in Notepad++ back then. So from CSS, I moved on to PHP, started writing a bit of XML too as well that time. And I started getting a bit of gigs, like designing basic websites, for clients, for people. And it felt very fascinating. Like you could do something and then it's online. At that time too, during the cyber cafe era, I was always going for overnight browsing. 500 bucks, spent the whole night at cafe, W3 schools, learning more about web development, you know. Um yeah, from there, what's the question again? It looks like I'm lost. I'm losing my train of thought. What was the question?
What was life before
Yeah,
Hingees?
before Hinges. Okay, yeah, I get it now. So, I started like getting deeper into web development, and it was very fascinating. I enjoyed it so much. I wasn't doing core graphic design at that time. But it got to a point where clients were asking, oh, they wanted a website and then they wanted logos. Like, can you help us design a logo? Can you design and print a business card for us? you know, that was my introduction into design proper. Like, I started enjoying that logo, the business card thing, you design a business card and then you print. It was fascinating for me to hold a business card that I designed and printed, the physical touch. I think that was the beginning of my love for making things, beyond the screen. So I was enjoying that more. And at that period, tech was not paying as it is right now. Tech bros now and they enjoy. Then it took time to convince clients about websites to charge proper, but someone that needs a logo, someone that needs a business card, someone that needs a flyer, the gratification was instant. Like I could see it immediately. So gradually, I fell in love with design gradually, and that development part of me took a back seat. So that was how I got into design before the Hinges story. I believe you asked me more questions, and I'll talk about how
Yeah,
story came up.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
no, I think that just like leads us to okay, how did you start Hinges? What inspired it? You know, how did
Yeah.
it come to life?
Okay.
And
Okay.
tell us the raw story, not the not
Yeah.
necessarily the one that everybody just like, oh yeah, I was yeah.
Yeah.
Feel
I'll
free,
say it.
feel free. This
Yeah.
is a safe space.
I'll say it. I'll say it. So back to the web design story. So I was designing websites before I got into school. I wanted to study computer science at that time, but I didn't get it. I ended up with that Greek. So when I got into school, I still didn't leave that part um of tech and computers. Like I knew that I was still going to continue in that line. And I was lucky enough, grateful that I had a computer at home then. My dad got a computer, I think when I was in SS1 or GS3. So I had a computer. So I knew that whatever it is that school gave me, I'll still get into this computer scene. In 100 level, I had friends in computer science department. So it was just one beautiful day. Um, and then I have this friend that we grew up together. We were in school together. He had a laptop in school. My dad didn't allow me to take my computer to school. So I had this friend that I was using his laptop. I had all my files. That time I had a flash drive, a 120 megabyte flash drive in school. Then I was like a big boy. Then no many people had flash drives, so I was using that my guy's laptop, to practice, to still do a lot of design and computer related stuff. So someone came to our room. The guy is in computer science department, and then he saw what I was doing. I was like, is this your stuff? I said, yes, it's my stuff. Like I designed. So why am I not in CSC? Like, you know how it is now, Jamba and PDS. They didn't allow me to get into CSC. And then he told me about these end of session tutorials that they usually organize. That I might be in to come and take computer science students web design training. I'm like, Baba, sure now. And it was 500 naira per head. Then cool money for me. I agreed to that. I think I can't remember the number of people that enrolled, but it was very good. The people that missed that session came back to me that they wanted a private class. And I think at that time I charged like 10K, around 5K or 10K for that private class. But before I knew it, news started going around like in computer science departments. I made more friends. I was still teaching. I got to meet one of the lecturers in computer science and I was working with him as well. And I was in my agric departments, always chilling in computer science departments. So it was during one of those tutorials, one of those lessons that I met someone. His name is Wale. Wale had a website. He had this marketplace website that he was running then in school. There was a company in Lagos that was handling all those things for him. So I think there was too much bureaucracy around how the company was handling it. So we came to Lagos together. I schooled in Ogbomosho, the Lautex in Ogbomosho. So we came to Lagos together. We wanted to transfer all of the files from the company to me. It was at that place, the company was in Allen Avenue, that I met another person. I mean, my story is filled with a lot of meeting and meeting and meeting. And interestingly, I'm still connected with a lot of all these people today. So I met another person at that company. He was doing his IT there. His name is Rashid. And then that period, I think I was looking for one particular software. I think Adobe CS3, that I didn't have it. And then that guy saw my work. He told me that he could help me get that software. I came back to school. He called me that he has found the software, came back to Lagos, installed it for me. And then he said he knows someone that he could introduce me to that would make my designs way better. And that's where I met my second mentor. The first one was Usman that taught me web design. And this second person, you might know him. is the creative director and founder of One Wildcat. That was where I met Kyle Deolowu, and he saw my designs. I was like, yeah, you just need a bit of brushing up. Don't worry, let's get on it. And at that time, Kyle was running with a couple of friends. There was this company called Beaten Eclectics. They were making t-shirts. If you guys know I can't remember the name of these brands. They were serious top brands that were making t-shirts in Lagos then. So Kyle was also making t-shirts then. So that was where I actually learned how to make t-shirts. It taught me how to make t-shirts. So at that period, I was always taking t-shirts from them. I'll take it back to school. I'll sell t-shirts in school. It was Goodman Clothing Co. Then, I had friends, they were buying t-shirts. Really, like it was really sweet that I was putting my design on t-shirts and people were wearing it. Before it was me making business cards. Now it was another level, like making t-shirts in school. Fast forward, we finished from school. Um, I was thinking I would work in another company. I studied agronomy, basically soil science, and I focused more on soil science. As at that time, I had an aunt that was working in Chevron. She had told me, "Man, worry, it was a shaitan, just, come to worry." We set everything up. So I served in worry at that time. After service, um, I was waiting like, see how far this level never showed me, like, what's up, It didn't come through, and I was still doing the t-shirt thing, still doing a bit of web design. I started doing proper branding. Then there was a bit of popularity on Twitter, like around logos and all of that. So I started doing, and it was the BlackBerry days too as well. You design DPs for people. So I started doing that, and I was making a bit of cash. I also told my auntie, "Oh, I did go Lagos," and I came back to Lagos. You know, I was still doing t-shirts under Goodman Clothing, still doing a bit of all those. But I had it in mind that I wanted to build a brand, but it was still not clear what it was going to be. Like, I wanted a brand that people would really like, you know, and all those like non-clarity period where you're still trying to figure out things. I was getting better at design at that period. Same time after NYSC, I've been fortunate enough to join an e-commerce startup then called Adiba. I worked with Adiba for I think like 8 months or 1 year before moving to Jumia. I joined Jumia back then as head of design for Jumia Food Africa. That time, my design was getting better, but I was buried in client work, and I wanted to do something for myself as a designer. Like I wanted an outlet. When you're doing a lot of corporate and client work, you get burnt out easy. I was looking for that outlet. So Hinges started as that outlet for me to express myself as a designer beyond creative work, like a place to chase my own creative curiosities. Like it was like a canvas. Being a brand designer, I wanted to know what it means to build a brand from ground up. And at that time, I was already in love with Nike and Apple. I was reading everything about the brands. I wanted to build a brand that people would connect with. And that's where the name also comes from. A hinge. A hinge connects two parts of an object together. I was sitting in the office that day in Jumia. Still thinking about the name. I think somebody opened the door or opened the lap. I know I saw a hinge and I'm like, that's it. I just added one E, registered the domain name right away there. And I mean, that was how hinges took off.
Okay. Nice. And you've answered like five of my questions already in the explanation you
Wow.
gave. So very good. Yeah, very good, very because obviously you've talked about influences, you've talked
You
about,
could still ask.
how you
Maybe I
started.
can be more specific.
Yeah. Okay. But I think one specific thing that I wanted to ask was, okay, so you've decided to do like a good brand, you started selling t-shirts. Two quick questions was, okay, I mean, how did you fund the first few iterations of Hinges? And at what point did you feel like, okay, you know what, this is actually getting serious? Like, what made you feel like, okay, this is actually getting serious? This isn't just, oh, something that I'm doing on the side,
Okay.
but it can be bigger.
Yeah, I like that. Um, so it was self-funded, like bootstrapping, still bootstrapping till now, but we have a lot of family and friends, I mean, in now, but it started like with just my salary, basically, just with 60, I think about 50 or 60 t-shirts at that time. Um, I had mentioned before that um there were a lot of people along the line, and I always say that there's this saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same thing for Hinges up till this day. Like there's an army of friends and associates that has helped in building the brand into what it is today. Like still there. So in those early days, I had friends that were already doing brand strategy. I had friends that were in marketing. So one thing that I got from one of my friends, her name is Oida. She wrote the first like simple brand strategy doc for Hinges. Like it was pretty clear. I knew like, okay, this is what I wanted the brand to feel like. And then on my own part, I wrote in my notepad, and I still have that notepad, that I want Hinges to be desirable to the startup community. And I wrote three startups. I wrote Andela, CC Hub, and Capital Square. So I wrote those three. Like, I want people from these spaces to love Hinges so much. And, all of the things and comms that we're putting out, it was aligned with that, from the very first t-shirts, talk, let's do more, starts, all those things. They were kind of like startup-y kind of things. And then 2 years into starting Hinges, we're getting a lot of orders from Andela 235 Ikorodu Road. That was where their office was. Like people were buying from Andela. And then Andela reached out. They wanted us to start making t-shirts for them, like for the brand. And it was at that moment, that was a very strong validation. It was at that moment that I knew that, okay, yes, we are being noticed. I think this guy has come to stay.
Okay, sounds good. And quick follow-up question. So one was, why were you intentional about, startups being your, will I say, early customers, and why are you still bootstrapping till today?
You said the first part, please.
Why were you intentional about startups being your early customers? Like, what was it about startups that you wanted? And then why are you still bootstrapping till today?
Okay, for me, for the first part, I think it was just the community where I find myself. You know, when you start out things, the very first set of people you speak with are the people around you. So I think it was a thing of it was a thing of my immediate community, and that community aligns a lot with my values, making things, making impacts beyond just yourself, which is something you see a lot in the startup community. So that's why, like, it's still kind of around that area, but we've broken out of that kind of like right now. And for the bootstrapping part, uh so sometimes this can sound a bit selfish in a way, but I don't feel bad about it. And I'm beginning to like open up a bit around that. During the very early days, I always had these notions that, when a lot of people are involved, like, when it comes to investors, bringing money, at some point you start chasing numbers and metrics, kind of, and you tend to lose touch beats the soul of the business. I had already said initially that this started out as a canvas for me to express and to chase my own creative curiosities. It's beyond numbers. And that is something that I have seen happen a lot. I mean, at some point, we would open up properly, but for now, I think it's still just going to be that way because I'm very worried about diluting, you know, that soul of the business. That's that art of making the arty part of it. But I know at some point it would definitely open up, but that's just the reason right now as it is.
It sounds good. Sounds good. And I mean, I think it's like I said, it's good that you're really intentional and in touch with why you're doing it and what you're doing. A lot of entrepreneurs don't really know, they just go with the flow or go with what's popular. So it's actually respectable that you are able to stick to what is true to you. So I think the next question is, so Hinge started, you've had Andela, a couple of other clients. How did you like did you hire people? Did you contract people? What does the team size look like now? Is it just you? Is it like, and I know that you have um I don't want to call them goons, but you have affiliates in Mushe. How did that how did that all work out in terms of getting people to, actually work on the things that you were working on? Um
Now that you ask,
yeah, I think that's the first question. Yeah.
I'm trying to think about the very first person I hired. Okay, I think I remember. But initially it was just me. Ah man, it was crazy. Like it was just me, doing designs, the website. Oh, I had friends I had one guy, my friend Tunde, that was helping with the website, but I was also doing website things because I had a background in in writing codes. It was just me doing customer service, managing the Instagram. I think the very first person I hired was an operations associate. That's the very first person I had. By the way, right now we are five full-time people on the team, but I still have like some other ad hoc people that come in once in a while. But it's five full-time people on the team right now. So the very first person I had was an operations person. Interestingly, the second person, customer support, the person reached out that she would like to work with Hinges. She was in Unilag at that time, 200 level. I was skeptical, but I gave her a chance. And I mean, that was one of the best decisions that I made. Like she really owned a space very well. So it's a team of five right now. Yeah, it's a team of five. We have two operations associates. We have a community manager. We have customer customer operations. Yeah, and then me. And then I have some people, that are on contracts, like the accountant, web manager, and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so the early days, what would you say that you were looking out for when you were hiring compared to now? Like now, what are you looking out for? Like if someone had to join your team now, what would you be looking out for? But let's start with the early days. Like, okay, at that time, I know you didn't really have a lot of money. So don't say food that would take
So,
small
so,
money. But like at that time, knowing what you did not know, what were
yeah,
you looking out for then?
I
And
did,
then compared to now.
I wasn't looking out for it. I didn't do anything. I just wanted people that will help me, that will just move the needle. Okay, you can pack order. Okay, this is how we pack it. This is how you do it. But I had to like let them know what we are doing. But it wasn't clear. I just needed people to help. But at some point, and that's why I mentioned it initially, I wrote an essay about it, like friends of Hinges, people that have helped the brand grow. At some point, it became
I
clear.
hope my name is there. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Please go ahead. I'm joking. I'm
Yeah,
joking. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So, so at some point, I reached out to one of my guys. I mean, everybody knows for art, like, and he understands this hiring process. At that point, I was hiring wrong people, and then we sat down together, like, dude, what is it exactly that you're looking out for? And then we wrote the brand values. Like we broke everything down and then built a hiring system centered around those values. So to your second question, one of the things we look out for right now, we want to hire anybody, you need to have tastes. That's number one. Very, very important. If you don't have tastes, you can't work with Hingees at all, even up to the artisans that we work with. So I look out for that. That's the very first thing. Number two is empathy. Like we are very, very big on empathy because if you have empathy, I mean, it's putting the other person in your own shoes. I was having a conversation with one of our operations associates recently, you know, how we pack others. You don't just put the Ziploc or the apparel into the Ziploc. Like, imagine, put yourself in a customer's shoes. Like, you are receiving this package. How do you want to open it? How do you want to feel? Feel like a friend is gifting you something. Like, how do you want to receive that thing? That is exactly how you should pack the others. So if you don't have empathy, you're not going to think that way. So empathy is the other thing that we look out for. I'd say taste and empathy. Once you cross that line, like we see it in you that you have taste and you have empathy. Yeah, every other thing are just like normal stuff like ownership and all of those, but taste and empathy, those are two things that we look out for. You have great eye for details, design. You don't have to be a designer, but if you have taste, you have eye for detail. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious. How do you test for taste? Because I feel like that's something that's so.
So, so our interview questions are very, very interesting. Like, or application questions. We could ask a question like, "What was the most interesting thing that you've read or seen or interacted with recently?" It could be like a TikTok video. It could be a YouTube video. All those things. Like, there are times part of the application we have probably put some scenarios. We ask some questions around certain scenarios, like what do you think about these? We ask questions about the brand itself, like what are your thoughts on certain things. So the way you answer those questions gives us an insight into like how you think about objects, how you think about things in general. So they are not regular kind of um um HR kind of questions, questions around if you don't have to worry about money or food, what would you spend the rest of your life doing? Someone might say, I'm going to travel the world and take very nice photographs. Some of all those things we kind of get pointers into the mindsets of the people we'll be working with. So, but sometimes
All right. Thanks.
sometimes we miss the mark, but yeah, that's how we kind of do
All right. Sounds good. I've learned something too. I'll start asking
it.
all those questions. Okay. So back to um the business side of things. I think first interesting question is, what's one, will I say, opportunity or project or time in the history of Hinges that you were really, really proud? Like, oh my God, I couldn't believe this, and we did this.
Ah, Hinges related.
Don't worry, the one that comes to your mind.
Um, I think, I think, ah, okay, the one that comes to my mind is starting another brand that was an offshoot of Hinges. Although we've taken a backseat on that, just economic and other reasons. Blank Tribe. I don't know if everyone knows Blank Tribe. I had mentioned initially that Andela reached out. You know, so at that point, we started making T-shirts for a lot of brands. You know, and one big one that came at some point was Paco, from the former CEO of Diamond Bank. Someone had introduced me to him, like, this guy makes really nice t-shirts. Meeting him and getting that project, we printed a lot of t-shirts for Sparkle. Like it was so much. So during that blank try period, I didn't know. It felt like, yo, this is just this guy making t-shirts. I started from making t-shirts in Shobolu, it has grown to a bigger brand, and now we have a brand that has been built off of that, and we are making stuff for other bigger brands. I think that Sparkle one was one that really hit me at that point. There are a couple of others, but I think that's the one I can remember right now because that one was, I mean, it really hit me at that time.
Okay. So quick question around tapping into creativity and collaboration and design. And
Yeah.
so I know that you've done, obviously, I've been fortunate. I've done a collaboration with you. I know that you've done a collaboration with Google. I know that you've done a collaboration. I think you have a collaboration coming
True.
out with,
Yes, we did some. Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I
those
know
are
you
some.
forgot.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't even remember the Google one.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
you have a collaboration coming out with Neo Kerwo. I think I just saw
yes,
that this week coming out.
yes,
Um,
yes.
so two quick questions in terms of, and I know you're very picky about collaborations. So in terms of one, at what point did you start thinking about collaboration? Two, what do you look out for in a collaboration? And three is obviously what's your most or top three most exciting collaborations so far?
Um, Collabs. I can't entirely remember when the collaboration thing came, but I knew that I I didn't want this to just be about me, the brand to be about me. I I wanted to have inputs from other creatives, just to I can't precisely say what led to the first set of collaborations, but I didn't want this to be just to be about me, and I wanted inputs from other creatives as well because I knew it was definitely collaboration would make things better. In terms of looking out, what we look out for collaborations, the most important thing is shared values. Once we have shared values, um um things centered around, inspiring people to greatness, pushing people to achieve things greater than where they currently are. You have it's not just about the product itself, it's more about what people feel or how they feel about the product. Once we have alignment in values, I think that's a very big optic for us. Like we're always open to collaborations with people like that. um Three most exciting collaborations. First things, I'm very excited about Nee's collaboration tomorrow. That's number one because um Nee is an OG. I've been looking up to Nee since way back when he was working with Indani TV. When my design was still crap then. Nee was an OG in the industry. So I've been looking up to him since. So having that opportunity to collaborate with someone that I was looking up to, I mean, it's a no-brainer. And he had also said that, yo, guy, we need to collaborate on something. So me is one. I think that's my most exciting collaborations that we've done. Um, I think all of the create collaborations that we've had, they are really exciting. Uh we've done three collaborations basically, aside the create one, and everything has been great. The collaboration with all of our create people, so that's one part. Everything I'll put them on the same, like on the same part, like yeah, everything same thing. Um, then the collaboration with Lumina and the one we did, yeah, those we just done three collaborations. So so yeah, yeah.
Maybe I cheated, haha. But I'm joking. Okay, cool, cool. And in terms of, so I'm going to switch a little bit. I know that obviously I follow you and a couple of people follow you, and we've seen you teasing around being in Europe, and you share pictures with some foreign people and material. Um, so what's that looking like first? And obviously we'll talk about expansion, selling outside Nigeria and things like that.
Yeah. That one is still under the wraps. I've only shared that on my Instagram stories. Um, yeah, we're working on a very exciting product, and something about me is uh I I enjoy working with makers like artisans. Like it's just a lot of joy, working with people that actually make things. And there is this thing about first principles, getting to the roots of things, like understanding how things work. And that's something I'm grateful for with all of the artisans that we work with. We don't just pass things to them like, okay, print this t-shirt or make this bracelet or make these belts or wallets. Like I try to go a step further to understand how materials work, to understand how things come together, which led to the recent, the one you referenced right now, the European trip. I was in Portugal, and one of the things that took me to Portugal was leather. They have some really good leather from those places: Portugal, Spain, Italy. And it's that curiosity, like, the leather markets, or let me say material markets in Nigeria, it sucks a lot. You know, you there is no consistency. We don't have standards, and it's a lot of hassle, especially when you're building to scale, when you're building a global brand. You need to have consistency. So, I mean, that led me to the recent trip, like meeting with all those guys. It's majorly a leather product. I don't want to spill yet, but it's gonna be insanely cool. Yeah.
All right, cool, cool, cool. And obviously that leads to the next question. So I go back a little bit to you were doing t-shirts. Now I've seen all
Yes.
sorts. You do leather, you do notebooks, you've done bottles. Um, how I mean, what's the thought process between what kind of product you're rolling out?
Okay.
And were you like, did you plan to like roll out to outside Nigeria intentionally, or how did that come about?
Okay. So in terms of product, I think it is the right point to also mention that Hinges is a brand that is deeply rooted in design. So it's not a product, it's not just about the product, it's more about how those things work. It's also a lifestyle brand, you know, associated with certain values, aspirations. The products are just outlets that reflect those values, design, taste, care in making things that are functional, things that make life better for people. So it's not tied to a particular kind of product. I always say that probably 10 years from now, Hinges could start making furniture, but you definitely know that if Hinges decides to make furniture, it's going to be very good furniture because it's going to be well designed. So it's more about what the products, like what we stand for beyond the products. Ideas for products, sometimes it comes from a personal need. In some other cases, it's feedback from customers, feedback from the community, like, who, when will Hinges start making these? When will Hinges start making that? A couple of people have teased, like, I want a Hinges everything. That's why I said it's more rooted in design and the values that the brand um is portraying. So the products are just outlets to that. I didn't get your second question.
I think the
I think
yeah, the second question was, um, were you intentional about expanding in terms of selling outside Nigeria?
oh, yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely. And all of my movements, like you pointed out initially, those were like me laying the foundations around that, like saying what those markets look like, seeing where we could have possible partnerships, beyond what we currently have right now. We started selling internationally, but we are looking at situations where we could have other channels like distributors in some of those markets, which is which still brings me back to what I was saying about sourcing materials for things in Nigeria. Sometimes it can be a lot of hassle, especially leather products. Especially leather, it can be hard to have some certain level of consistency, even with fabric and all those things. So that's why, So yes, we have plans around that, like really ongoing plans around expanding beyond Nigeria now.
Okay. Sounds good. And let's talk a little bit about the entrepreneurship side, even though you're a designer. I think a lot of entrepreneurs talk about, I know it's every day, they feel like quitting, it's really hard. I think as I mean, how long have you done Hinges now?
It's gonna be 10 years in August.
Wow, 10 years. Okay. Congratulations. We should do a big party. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
congratulations.
we have an anniversary event coming up in November.
Oh, nice, 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 nice. So this leads to the anniversary. That's good. So question is, was there like a major time where I know that it could happen often where you thought, you know what, I'm done. This thing is not gonna work. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and you know what, this is really tough. And how did you navigate that period?
To be honest, someone asked me this question on Saturday last weekend, and to be honest, like I never. There were very very tough moments, like really tough moments, crazy moments, but I don't think I had a point where I thought about quitting Hinges. I don't think I have had that point. Maybe it might still come, but I don't think I've had that point. But I've had very, very tough moments,
And what's
times.
one tough moment that you remember that was so tough?
Okay. Um, it was the FX thing when 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 the I think when Hinges started, then a dollar was exchanging for 160 naira. And then there was one very sharp increase. I can't remember the year precisely, but that period tested me so much because, you know, the revenue was not matching up at that time. And then the cost of production was like probably times three. And in my head, I'm like, how do we navigate this path? Like, I can't remember how we navigated. I think like, I was scared about raising prices. Like, do we raise prices? Would people still buy? We raised prices and sales, like, it wasn't like people still bought, like, it was really, really slow. But at that point, I'm like, yo, can we still continue this thing? But for me, I am someone that generally likes playing the long game. And I think something that contributed to that, or something that contributes to that, is being a brand designer. It takes a very long time to build a brand, like to grow something that people like and people trust. So from the early days, I knew that this is a very long game and I'm ready to play it as long as it takes. But one good thing happened. And that good thing, I mean, they always say when disaster happen, like there's always a bit of good in it. I've not shared this publicly, but I'm going to share it. When that good thing happened, it was COVID. COVID helped Hinges. I had tested out the idea of a sweatpants early before. You know how I used to like tease product photos and all those things. Nobody warmed up to it. But during COVID, you know, I think I posted the photo again, and somebody was like, sweatpants, really don't mind though. And then we started with 45 sweatpants. It sold out in 2 weeks. I'm like, yo, what's happening? It was in retrospect that I realized that it was work from home culture that pushed the sales of sweatpants, and that was like a major turning point for Hinges. I think we've sold close to 5,000 sweatpants to date right now. So when that uptick happened, I'm like, yo, correct. We keep going. You know, I often go back to our Paystack dashboards, and the first 5 years or 6 years, like it was flat, like just small before the hockey stick happened. Yeah, so that's. I don't know if I answered the question properly.
Yeah,
I know I
you
said
did, you did. All answers are valid, don't worry. Because you're sharing like things from your perspective. So you did, you answered the question. One more business kind of question. I know that, like I said, I think if I describe you, you're a very intentional person, even stubborn to a fault to something, which is great. Because it helps the quality of the experience with Hinges. But I wanted to ask and was curious, like
yeah.
you've grown, steadily at first, and then obviously, like you said, an uptick. But what strategies do you think really worked in terms of the Hinges story?
I'm not sure I get the question very
Okay,
well.
so what growth strategies do you think has worked? You know how if they put you side by side with another brand that is doing exactly what Hinges is doing, what would you say is make what would you say you're doing differently that is working to make Hinges grow?
Okay. Ah,
You don't have to be
I'd say
humble.
no. Yeah, I'd say I think I think branding is the biggest moat, and this brings me to my favorite brands, Nike, Apple, and Coca-Cola. They don't just sell products, they sell things. And I try to tap into that for how we are building Hinges. Like it's not just the product, it's the thoughtfulness, it's the feeling behind the product. We share our process. Sometimes how we work with artisans, how we source products. And these days, people want to see those things. They want to see behind the scenes, like how do you make these things, like the steps that you take into bringing all of that together. People can tell if something is done with intention. Like people can easily see if it's done with care. And I think that's something that has helped set Hinges apart. Like we don't rush. We don't just put out products. We take time to build. We take time to test, you know, iterations, and all of these, they are done publicly sometimes. We get feedback. And when people feel like they are a part of the building process, like, oh, I contributed to this, these people took my feedback, you know, it strengthens the connection. Like they feel like a part of the brand, they feel like a part of the story. I think that's something that has helped Hinges a lot up till this day.
Okay, sounds good. I think you do well with storytelling too as well and quality, but that's just me as a Hinges customer. See me plugging extras for you. Okay, so I mean, I feel like I have so many questions, but I know that we're almost at time. If anybody has any question, just request to speak, and I'll let you up to ask. I mean, a question quickly. I think I know that you juggle a couple of things, and I think question would be as and I know you hate being called, okay, not hate, but you don't like being called an entrepreneur, the designer doing a couple of things. What's like your top choice for finding balance for yourself? So for some
Ah,
people, don't steal what I'm going to say, but for some people it's family, for some people it's I don't know, exercising, for some people it's I don't know, different things. But for you, what's like, okay, when it gets crazy and I'm about to lose my mind, this is where I go to.
Ah, so first things first. I think I would say I'm very fortunate enough to do something in line with the things that I enjoy, design and making. There was one part of this story that I just remembered now. Like I had a time where I was an apprentice in a printing press in Shomolu for a couple of months, you know. And back to your question, how I balance all of that. Um it still ties down to creative expression, beyond Hinges itself. There are other things that I do. I take photographs. You know, I I don't mean not to say what you said because it might sound cliche. Like I exercise, I hang with friends. I'm fortunate enough to have very amazing friends. Sometimes we just hang out, we chill, we relax, we talk, you know. And also the whole travel thing. There was a time that I'll just travel to Ife. I'll travel to Ibadan. I, I'll travel, like to Oshogbo just to go and relax with some of my guys. So, like, I do all of that. I can be very spontaneous in some cases. Whatever just comes, I just do it to distress, basically. Like, yeah. And sometimes this thing are still kind of related to work. Um, in terms of design, I enjoy everything design. There are times that I just pick up a book on architecture when I'm reading books on architecture. There are times I watch documentaries on how things are made, like how stuff works. I'm not a civil engineer, but recently I started watching documentaries on how they build bridges, how they build skyscrapers. All of those things, they kind of calm me down, gives me a lot of joy just to see people making things. Yeah, that's just how I chill.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. And I'm gonna, Innocent, I'm gonna let you go, but let me have one more question with Hamid. Then you go next. Um, I know this is like a very vague, you know, question, but what's one valuable lesson you learned from a mistake in the early days of Hinges that was super like important for you to learn?
Um, ah, I think I think there are many, but one is people will not just buy things from you because they like you. Like you need to make something really good. We worked on a product sometime back. I think it was a face cap, and it flopped. It didn't do well. There was no buzz, no sales, and that taught me to kind of detach a bit. You know, I could. I mean, in some cases, because of the obsession with making, and it could come off as being having like a couple of like probably perfectionist kind of things, like it needs to be right. But that product at that time, it taught me to make space for mistakes. Like you can't always hit the nail on the head. And yeah, yeah, just yeah, that was it. That was it for me. I think that's one that comes to mind right now.
Thank you. Habib, please go.
Hey,
Thank you
Abibo,
very much.
I asked too much.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of Good Man and Ninjas. I think anyone that's on my timeline would know that. So I want to ask questions about collaboration because I mean, as mine is we've done collaboration a couple of times, but
Yeah.
most of the time it's always just been like you said, it's not really about maybe how much you want to make back at the point. It's just always about creating something and putting it out there. But I've gotten to a point where I think we need to start like thinking of the responsibilities. For example, if you're collaborating with a creator and we are like handling the full financial responsibility, we need to also understand the value we are bringing in infrastructure and so on and so forth. So I want to ask, how do you approach these sort of conversations, and also balance out what you get back without also looking like, or without also being too greedy, but making sure you are offering value to the person you are collaborating in financially. Like, you want them to be happy with how much they're getting back, as well as the products that they are creating. So the whole experience of collaborating and thinking, creating, selling, making money back and whatnot, how do you balance all those bits out without feeling bad that, oh, I have lost money, or, oh, I am cheating this person? Those bits is dicey.
All right. Thanks for that. And that's yeah, I like that question. Um, so first things first, I really don't entirely enjoy the business side of things a lot. It can be very stressful. At some point, I was saying like, man, I just want to make things. Something around collaborations, partnerships, signing contracts, and all of that. It's also a very new territory for me, and something that I have been able to do right now is to get a lot of outside help, most especially from friends and associates that understand finance and all of these negotiations better. So it's still something that we're also figuring out ourselves. We don't have, it's not, I don't think there is a set template. The very first thing is if there is an alignment in values, and if there is openness, you can have like an open conversation with whoever you're collaborating with, and then you need to demonstrate what you're bringing, like all of the whole operations, production, marketing. This person is also bringing an idea which you are going to leverage on, for the brand. I don't think there is any set template. It just has to do with balancing, understanding the value you are bringing and the value this other person is bringing as well. And like I said, for us right now, or for me personally, like I look outside a lot for help from people that understand finance better. It's also a learning curve for me and the brand at this time. It's also a learning curve. So it's not something like Yewande said, I'm a designer just for myself as an accidental entrepreneur. So it's a space that I'm still trying to understand as well. And I believe that as we go on, as we test, after two, three, four, five, six collaborations, you get the hang of it and you keep running with that. At the end of the day, it still comes down because you know when you are bringing another person in, you definitely look at the numbers, and it has to do with your negotiation skills as well, basically.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Abu.
Alright, thank you. I think we'll take one more outside question. From, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this well, Bemi. Did I get that right?
Yes, please, you did. Hi,
Please go
everybody.
ahead.
Good afternoon. I have a question for good man. How far?
Maybe. Hello. Yeah. Oh, I'm
Um,
good. I'm good.
They
um,
they came to show their support,
Yes, yes,
which
yes,
is
yes.
very good.
so,
And I appreciate it.
question for you today is about products and process in terms of conception and ideation. Now, how you go about your process. So the question is, how do you balance between what your core base of customers, what they're asking for, or what you feel like your market research is telling you to work on? How do you balance between that and your own creative ideas on what you plan to push out into the markets?
So to rephrase your question, how do we balance what people are asking and what we
Yeah,
want to make, right?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
oh, yeah, nice, nice. So yeah, something that has helped us grow our product line definitely is getting feedback from people. Like, you know, in the initial stage or in the early days of the brand, or when you're starting out like this, you tend to start out with what you want to make or what you want to see. At some point, you definitely need to detach. And that's where the business instinct kicks in. You definitely need to detach from what you want to see and what people are asking for. So it's I mean, it's not very, very straightforward. When people ask for things, what we usually do, like there is like a journal where we write out like all of the products in the pipeline. So we try to test out gradually to see how the response is to some of the things that people have. There are times where people ask for stuff and you test it out and you see that it's not doing as much as you want. And there are times where we've tested things out, based on customer feedback, and it did really amazingly well. Um, there are also for me, there are times that some of these products like it arises from a personal need. And one particular one was the Apple Watch strap. You know, the strap on my own watch. I don't use an Apple Watch, by the way. So so it's not like I use an Apple Watch. So the strap on my watch broke. And I started doing stuff with leather at that time. And a leather artisan, and I told him, like, okay, make this kind of watch strap for me. He made it, and I put out the picture. And then I think three people mentioned it would be really nice for you to make an Apple Watch strap. Like, I think people would really like it. And that's one of the most successful products, like in our leather um line right now. Sometimes it goes really well. You just have to test and try it out, with a little batch. And if it does well, you double down on it. And at times that might not do well, and you just scale back. But oftentimes, you just have to find a way to balance that, like making what you want to make and making what people actually want. Because that's how the catalog grows. When you are able to build or make things around what your core market actually wants. So if you don't do that, I mean, in no time the business would definitely die because it's not centered around you. So that's how we approach that.
Thank you very much. Follow-up question
Yeah.
to that. So my follow-up question is, you mentioned that you talked about always moving with the market and with what customers are seeking and then building your product line. Of course, we know that demand will drive what you supply because of market forces. So my follow-up question is this. um how do you balance moving with the trends? Like, we know that every time and again there are some trends that come in business that looks like a particular concept is hitting big, and then after some time there are some specific products that phase out and that don't have a long term span on the shelf. Like, it's not the product that people buy over the seasons, but there are specific products that that um no matter what the season is, people keep purchasing these products. So when you ideate, or when you are in your process for rolling out your products for creation, how do you find a balance between the two? Products that are trendy and products that have a long lifespan.
Okay. So I'll say that we try not to chase trends at all. It's very, very easy to chase trend or feel behind. But something that we are very intentional about is not to chase trends. Like, we try not to chase trends. Like, for us, it's not about the hype. So it's more about the intention. So whatever the trend is, we go back to ask, like, why. We ask if this actually aligns with our overall goal, like our overall purpose. Like, if it doesn't, then we don't do it. So we try not to. So that's something that we are always very, very careful about. Like, we try not to chase trends, because it's I mean, they have trends are they have short lifespan. Like, after a while, it's not more viable. So we try to stay away from that. It's so interesting that I mean, some of the very, very, very first products that Hinges made since 2015, we still sell some of those till dates. Like, it's quite interesting. So we try as much as possible not to chase trends. We we look at the intention, like, does this really align? If it doesn't, we just put it out. We just put it out. We take it out. We don't go along with it. So we try not to chase trends. That's something about hinges generally. So
All right, thank you. Sorry, Demi, we're running out of time. So we can only take two questions from you. Two final questions. I mean, because I know that we've gone past. One is, if you had to give, one advice to young Hamid when you started, or people that are starting, creative journeys or businesses or startups, what would it be?
hey, uh,
You don't have to ask you some aspire
hey,
questions.
because
But like, okay, so but you can be real. Don't worry, you can be real. So just imagine, like, everything you know now, ups and downs, and you saw like yourself like 10 years ago, or someone like just about to start their own
okay.
journey, or they're thinking about it, or like you said, they don't know what to do. Like, whatever advice you feel like comes to you right now that you would have been able to tell yourself like 10 years ago, what would it be?
Okay. I think I'll tie this back to some hinges quotes.
Okay,
Ah,
and that's fine.
yeah, do it afraid. Just start, do it afraid, keep going. But beyond that, I'd say, I mean, um, one should not be afraid to build things slowly, or don't be worried about being building things slowly. That's it. Don't be worried about building things slowly. Um, and sometimes the most meaningful things grow without so much noise. Like, it takes time. You need to focus on doing the work that feels true to you, something you deeply care about. There is one Paul Graham quote that keeps coming to mind. Let me see. I think I put it up somewhere. Yeah, it says, like, it's essential to work on something that you are deeply interested in. Interest will drive you to work other than mere diligence. Diligence is more like you keep showing up every day. But if you're not interested in that thing, you can give up. So it's important to work on something that you're deeply interested in. And the three most powerful motives are curiosity, delight, and desire to do something really good. And when they come
Curiosity.
to
Okay, can you repeat again? Curiosity, delight, and the desire to do something good.
yeah, to do something really fantastic. Yeah. It's I'm just paraphrasing from Paul Graham. Yeah, I wrote it down. So yeah, curiosity delights, because curiosity will make you to keep searching. You keep asking, like, what next? What can we make? And when you make that thing, you would feel some sense of delight. Absolutely. So yeah, I I hope I've been able to I hope I didn't mumble that up too much.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I think final question. Um, I mean, the question was supposed to be, what does the future hold for Hinges? But I think you can answer it any. What should we be expecting over the next couple of years from Hinges, if you can publicly share?
To be candid, I don't know. I don't know, but the furniture has been playing a lot in my head, like interior, like making things for interior spaces. I I I had a chance to interact with IKEA a lot recently, and that's one brand that I really, really like. I listened to There is this podcast acquired, like 3 hour episode on how IKEA was founded. And I kind of saw my early days in what the founder, how Inva Kamprad started. So I think I don't know what in the next couple of years what we'll be doing, but whatever we do, it's going to be deeply rooted in design, whatever it is, like really amazing stuff. So I don't know yet. I honestly don't know. So we just keep building out the catalog, you know, but it's always gonna be rooted in design. So we've moved beyond. We started with apparel. Now we do stationery. We do leather goods. We've moved into drinkware. we're going into other accessories like workspace accessories in a couple of years. That's in the pipeline, you know. So everything that revolves around a lifestyle, and that makes life better for people, but it's going to be well designed.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And we'll be looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Hamid, for spending time with us. I told you you'll be laid back and it won't be that serious. So thank you for giving us was it laid back?
Yeah, it was chill. It was chill. I mean, I always get nervous for things like this. Not really. I always say I'm not a public speaker. I just just want to make things and move on. But yeah,
Yeah, well, you've done very well. Yeah, you've done very well. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I even found out things that I didn't know on this space. So thank you very much for making our time. We hope to interview you sometime in the future when you launch some other things. Please, everybody, check out Hinges. They're launching a new collection with New York. I think it's for writing pads. They have the line called Create, and
yes.
hopefully, you do some collaboration in the future. Thank you guys for hanging in there, for spending like over an hour with us this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are. And we'll see you soon. Thank you. Enjoy your
Thanks.
evenings and afternoons. All right.
All right.
Thanks, Hamid. All right. Bye. Thank you for listening to Building from Scratch. We hope you follow us and subscribe and watch out for our next episode.